Happy Tuesday, everyone. So, this is our fourth writing class with prompts. The writing class is called The Beauty Remains. And we are using, if you want, one of these journals, or you can use paper, computer, your own journal. I have lots of really beautiful journals, and so I'm sure you have some too, so you can use whatever you want. I'm just going, there's 50 prompts in here. I'm just going, starting at the beginning and just going through each one, and they're not in any order at all as far as chronological. But the name "The Beauty Remains" comes from a quote that I've mentioned this before, but I just wanted to mention that it came from a quote that was a really important quote to me during my own cancer journey, and it was by Anne Frank, and she said, "I don't think of all the misery, but of the beauty that still remains." And so that's where the name of the journal comes from. So I'm excited to talk to you about today's prompt because I get to tell you about two people. There were so many, but two specifically that really helped support me and love me on my cancer journey. And so as I'm talking about people, and I'll mention like groups of people just to get your memory kind of going, just to jog your memory. But I'm sure all of you have specific people that really helped you. I hope you did. Some of you I know didn't have a lot of help, and that hurts my heart a little bit because and it's one of the reasons Lifting Hearts is here, so that for those people for sure who don't have any support anywhere else. But the prompt number 4 is to share the story of how you found strength and support from your loved ones during your battle with breast cancer. So again, in the journal, there's, places to write, there's some artwork places, and make sure that as you start writing your story, that then you record what lessons you learned from this specific prompt. So, and I'll share the quote with you a little bit later that's at the end of it. So I've told you before about my mom, who was such a rock for me through my whole cancer journey. Even though she had a hard time with it, I didn't really get to see that part of it, which was helpful for me. So I want to talk to you about her and what she did, and then also about my sister Chris. But before I do that, let's talk about people that maybe you want to think about. So a spouse, unless they weren't helpful. Best friend. My best friend came to my unveiling of my mastectomy. That was traumatic. Best friends, maybe neighbors who took care of you or helped take care of you, people from your church community, or just your community around you, anyone from online groups, any maybe survivors who had gone before you who were able to help you. I had a couple of those as well. And so I'm sure, as our prompts continue, I'll be able to tell you about all of that. But so just to jog your memory, and hopefully you can start writing down people who helped you and how they helped you. And then think about specifically about how they helped you find the strength and the support to get through your cancer journey. And then again, the lessons that you learned from this. So my mom, okay, so let's see. I had a son who was on a mission for our church in Japan when I was diagnosed. He was 19, I think. My second son was starting college, so he was away. He didn't live with us during college, during that first semester. He was away, so he was gone. I had a kid in, I'm trying to think if it was in junior high, and then I had an 11-year-old who was in elementary school still. And And so you guys know that you kind of have to still be a mom, and you still have to be a spouse, and you still have to, exist in your other roles, not just as a survivor. And sometimes that can be really hard. My husband worked full time, and so and those chemo treatments, I had 6 over the course of several months. And so my mom became my chemo partner. And I think I mentioned before, maybe not, maybe I mentioned it at a retreat, but she even made me a chemo blanket, a fleece chemo blanket. It was purple and green, bright green, and it had skulls all over it. I remember going the first time to my very first chemo appointment. My mom was like, "Yeah, you need your own blanket. I'm not going to let you use these blankets here. You need your own." She came with me, and I think the strength part of it was that I just absolutely, after going through mastectomy and tests and so many tests to find the cancer and all of the doctor's appointments, you guys know all of this. After going through all of that, I felt like I just could not go to a chemo appointment by myself. I just couldn't do it. And I was really nervous. I was nervous about, I had a port, and I was nervous about them sticking a needle. I'm deathly afraid of needles. And so sticking a needle in that port, just the whole thing made me really nervous and scared. And so my mom became my chemo partner, and she would come and pick me up, and the kids were in school, and we would go and sit there for 6 or 7 hours, however long it took. And on the way, we would stop at Sonic, and we would get a big cup of ice for me to chew on. And we would always get like a hamburger. Not the healthiest thing, but I figure, today, before I start my chemo treatment, is the time when I have the least amount of sick stomach that I will have for the next 3 weeks. So we had a lunch. I've got this cute picture of my mom that I know I'm going to put in my journal, where she's sitting there in a chair next to me, and she's reading her book, and she would just hang out with me all day long, and she would get me hard candy if I needed it for the taste of the medicine, and she would get me more ice and some drinks and juice. And it was so helpful to me to have someone there who had my back. And I've never understood, like, how can you go to get chemo by yourself? So to me, that just wouldn't have been, like, I would have been miserable. And she would then bring me home, and by the time we would stop at the pharmacy on the way home to get the nausea medication and other stuff, I was wiped out and just didn't feel well. And I would go and sit in the pharmacy chair, and my mom would go and do everything for me, and then she would come back and get me, and she would take me home, and my kids would be home from school, and she would take me straight into the bedroom, and she would tuck me into bed. And then she would go out and talk to my kids and just say, "Mommy is not feeling well today. She had some medicine, so we're going to let her rest, and you guys are going to get your homework done." And then once that was done, she would go home. And so she was one of my people who definitely helped and added strength, just in the form of support for me. The other person I wanted to talk about is my sister Chris, and she's actually in this group because she helps us. She's one of the directors for Lifting Hearts, and she helps with so many things. Many of you have met Chris. Chris was my fill partner. So I had expanders placed in my chest and to get ready for implants, and she would go to every one of those appointments with me because she knew how scared I was of stupid needles, and the needle was like that long. It was like 70 cc's of fluid in each side every time I went. And she would just be there, and she would hold my hand. I'm sure that I crushed her fingers more than you can imagine. But she didn't want me to be by myself during that time either. And she had kids at home as well. but she always came to those appointments with me so that I didn't have to do that by myself. And I think that for me, at least for this prompt, I'll be talking about the people who helped me, who made it easier for me to be brave, who made it easier for me to remember that I wasn't by myself, I wasn't alone, and that there were a lot of people who had my back. So I think that's what I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to be writing in my journal. You know, about the people that did that for me, and the lessons learned. I think from that for me are the importance of support. You know, someone might look like they're brave and they can handle it, but maybe not. And so if you have a minute to give some support to someone who's going through something really hard, it's so important. And really just being there. You know, my mom couldn't take the pain away from me. My sister couldn't take the shot from or the fill for me or anything like that. They were just there. They were there to hold my hand and help. And I have seen in this group over many years, I have watched many of you step forward and give rides to other survivors, go and sit at chemo, go and visit, become really close friends. There has been so much of that in this group. I'm so proud of this group and how supportive and loving they are to everyone else. So, all right. And then the quote at the end of this prompt is by Terry Clark, and it says, "When someone has cancer, the whole family and everyone who loves them does too." That is so true. Like, everyone gets to go through this with us. So, all right, you guys, I hope that you've got your prompt for the next week. I hope these prompts are helping. And yeah, look now, we've done 4 of them. So before the next time, when we've had a full month to start writing in our journals, I've got a few ideas that I want to use this for. And I think it would be really amazing if anyone wanted to share their response to one of the prompts to be featured as an article on our blog. And also thinking about doing a podcast where we invite some of you on and just kind of go over the prompt and what your response was to it, and talk it through. So I'm excited about those 2 things, and hopefully we might get another month ahead so that we've got a good 8 different prompts and articles to look at. But if you would be interested in sharing part of your journey so that will help other survivors, then just watch for my post. I'll tell you where to send in your article or your answer to the prompts. And then once we do decide to start our podcast, we'll have a form that people can fill out. So, all right, you guys, have a great day. And don't forget this weekend. So if you're watching this later than this weekend, sorry about that, but the Pink Zinc is having a family event, and I will be posting. I think I posted about it earlier today. We'd love to see you guys there. And this is where you can come, and Lifting Hearts is doing a service project where we're going to be writing little notes of encouragement to survivors. So you can come and help with that. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.